Howdy, and welcome back to the Ineligibles podcast. I am Will Stone. He is Chase Caldwell. He is Hayden Garland. Boys, how's everything going?
It's going good. Busy as
Yeah,
always. How's your
I feel
life,
like
Will?
I feel like you two are a lot busier than me, and I feel kind of guilty about it.
My life actually just got a lot easier. I
Yeah,
finished up all my audit stuff like I told y'all last week, and I'm kind of on the downward trend of that right now. Taking
yeah,
next week off, so life's about to slow down.
yeah, yeah. The power move of taking a week off to go nowhere. I kind of love it. I feel like I should do that at some point this year.
I am going to unplug as hard as you can unplug. I'm just turning all of my devices off. No notifications, no nothing. If the plant burns down and I come back on Monday and it's there, great. If not,
Start getting the resume out there, huh?
yeah, I will figure something out. Somebody contacted me on LinkedIn the other day about a second shift job, so
Yeah,
maybe I look into that. Who knows?
was it Deep Eddy?
No,
Sorry.
no,
I don't know if that's a joke too far to take.
I would never go. Never go.
But no, I'm doing all right. I feel like it's like with the draft, in our rearview mirror. It's going to slow down quite a bit in terms of football news. There's like spring meetings coming up and things like that. Um, so I looked this up. We talked last week about the transfer portal. It did close on Sunday. So as of today, this is Wednesday, May the 3rd. So if you have not seen someone enter the portal, you're not going to see them at this point. They are going to be on the roster they are currently listed on. So which is fun. Like you don't have to worry about your starting tackle getting a wild hair in July right before camp and just peacing out. So
Yeah, for sure.
but I think first let's do draft talk. That's the most top of mind, and uh, small class of A&M draftees, but it was really one way to look at it is it was a 100% hit rate. Like the three guys that left that were eligible to be drafted were drafted. Devon Achane, I believe in the third round to the Dolphins. Antonio Johnson in the sixth to the Jaguars, and then Jalen Jones at the top half of the seventh round to the Colts. So Jalen, he barely snuck in there. I thought he might be, maybe fifth or sixth. The one that shocked me the most was Antonio dropping to the sixth. I thought he was, if the Cowboys had picked him at like 58, I would have been thrilled. Like I think he's a fantastic player, and I think he was well thought of by the scouts. So I don't know if it's injury stuff or something like that. Typically when like you'll see some guys fall and you're like, oh, like why is so and so falling? Like he was so good in college, and it's just stuff that we don't know about. So,
Yeah.
but obviously hope the best for all three of these guys. I think they'll all have bright futures, but very easy to get excited about Devon Achane with the Dolphins. The Dolphins now have maybe one of the fastest teams in history with with Achane, Tyreek Hill, and Jalen Waddle all on their offense. So like that's super exciting. The head coach there is a very very modern offensive mind. So I think it's a great spot for Achane to land. He won't be the bell cow running back. He's going to be he may get 10, 12 carries a game and catch several passes, but I think that's a hell of a place for him to land at. Although I still wish he was a Dallas Cowboy.
Yeah. How can you not? I mean, I think Achane's going to have a very good career in the NFL. I've seen a lot of guys that were like him that coming into college, everybody questioned like, well, is he a football player? Does he have the size and all that? And then he proves that he is. And then going into the NFL, he gets the exact same questions.
Yeah.
Well, is he a football player? Is he a sprinter? You know, and so
Yeah.
I think he'll do fine.
Yeah, I think his pass catching ability was underrated. And honestly, it probably wasn't used enough by us in the offense that we ran. But something he can do very well. And I think Pierce has the name of that coach, Mike McDaniel. Man, that's a really big comment. I know it's going to be that big when I put it up there. But yeah, Mike McDaniel, the guy that looks like a high school senior that's the head coach at Miami. Yeah, they definitely got a steal. So great pick for them. I know Hayden is a little annoyed that he traded away his first round pick in his dynasty league. So, is there any chance A-Chain falls to you? Like, what's your next pick?
No, the 212. I won last year. Humble brag. So
So you're end of both rounds?
well, I had the end of the first round, and then I traded that pick away to get another running back. And yeah, then I would have been the end of the round because Dynasty, you don't typically do a snake draft like you do for startup. You just do like the NFL, and last goes first, and then first goes last, and then you restart the round. Just go over and over and over. So
Yeah,
I traded my pick, and I'm gonna just be taking long shots my entire draft now. But yeah, no, A-Chain would have been of all the running backs, I think, other than obviously you had Gibbs and
Bijan.
Bijan, yeah. I don't know why that name was escaping me. Bijan.
That's all anybody could talk about for the past.
I
past
know.
few months.
That's the only name I've heard for the longest time, and then I wanted it. Yeah, those two, and then Charbonnet was another one that was highly touted, but he fell to a spot that wasn't great for fantasy, and so I really wasn't thinking about A-Chain.
Yeah.
And then he fell to where he did, and I'm like, but again, I'm kind of one of those people where there's enough people doubting him that I'm like, I don't know, for my dynasty team, I don't know if I want it, but no, he'll do good. I mean, and that in that offense, that's going to be a good spot for him.
Well, I feel like those other guys, like especially Mostert, I've had him in fantasy in years past, and like he's not going to be healthy for 17 games,
No.
So like A-Chain and some other guys will factor in there, but also like whenever he got picked, someone put it on Twitter like, hey, like this is where he won, Orange Bowl MVP when he was a freshman. Like he's been to that stadium and done some big things. So that's a great spot for him. But I misspoke earlier and I said AJ went in the 6th, actually the 5th round for Antonio Johnson. But I don't know. I think a lot of A&M fans were kind of down in the dumps with this draft, just because like A-Chain, he was like mid 3rd, early 3rd, I think, and the other guys fell past where they like maybe should have expected to go. And the thing is, all 3 guys left early. Like maybe Jalen could have come back and improved his stock a bit. And corners of place we're kind of hurting that for depth right now. So it's not in my wheelhouse to say, oh, he should have come back. Like that was a stupid decision. Like, hey, you had to do what's best for you. And like he thought the best thing for him was to enter the draft, and he got picked. So I mean, it's hard to be too upset with that. But I think in the future, I hate calling our team a young team, but when it fits, you have to acknowledge that. And this team was super young, very few seniors on the team. Really not that many this coming year, but I think as that 22 class grows and matures and sticks around through their eligibility, I think you see some big things in the draft for A&M in the future.
Yeah, I would say my reaction to that would be when you go early and you're not on a national championship winning team or contending team, that's kind of expected. I wouldn't go so far as to say they shouldn't have left or anything like that, but I mean, that if you're if you're on a 5-7 team, that's going to have some impact on your draft stock.
Yeah.
I'd imagine you would know that. So I can't say that it shocks me that our guys went lower than what I would have, or what might have been expected by the NFL experts, but it doesn't really shock me on that for sure. But at the same time, you got to do what's best for you. They're in a good place. Happy for them, rooting them on. They're Aggies, and I want them to succeed. So,
Yeah.
hope the best for them. I like all three of those guys. I would love to have all three of them back for sure, but
Yeah.
at the same time, that's part of the game.
Yeah, and you kind of wonder, and not to drag up last season because we've been through enough, but you kind of wonder if you had a season like you had in 2020, do some of those guys say, hey, I want to come back and compete for a title? And I think you've seen that at Alabama, you've seen it at Clemson, you've seen it at Georgia even. And there's guys like when you have a great season and you fall just short, and like maybe you had a really productive year, but you're thinking, hey, like I could go to the NFL, and that's all well and good, or I could come back and really boost my team's chances to win a championship and get a ring. Oh, and now there's this thing called NIL, to where if you're not a surefire first round pick, we might be able to match your compensation for that first year that you would have in the NFL. So
Yeah.
there's that factor too. But the one position I will never ever blame for leaving after 3 years is running back. Like they are so devalued by the NFL now. Their shelf life is the shortest by far. So guy like Achane, guy like Travion Williams, guy like Isaiah Spiller, get your 3 years in, do the best you can here at A&M, and then go, kill it in the NFL. So, speaking of Travion, I think he may get the chance to start for the Bengals this year. I know Pirine moved on, and I know Mixon, his status is kind of TBD with his issues he's got going on. So, Travion's been behind those two guys since he got drafted, and could be his time to really shine. And I mean, the Bengals are badass. I mean, they got Joe Burrow and that whole offense going. So it'd be cool to see him, get some reps and be in the spotlight. But that's Professor Travion Williams for those of you at home. But he's the NIL professor at the Texas Law, or the A&M Law School. But real quick, Hayden, you're a big NFL guy, big fantasy guy.
Sure.
Anything stand out to you or catch your eye with the draft?
I mean, I'm just gonna be parroting a lot of what I've heard so far, but like Bijan going that early is a little surprising with the way that the NFL drafts running backs, and
Sure.
It's great for fantasy players, and the Falcons got a great player, but at the same time, like they broke all the rushing record, or their franchise rushing records last year with man, I am really bad with names tonight.
Is it Algier?
Yeah, Tyler Algier. They broke all those records with him, and now they get Bijan, and I'm sure Bijan's going to just destroy all those records because the Falcons coach loves to run. So, like, from a roster construction standpoint, did you really need another running back? Maybe you want to go out and get Bijan, and I get that, but shocked, but not, that's a good spot for him. And then almost same thing for Gibbs. It's not a really good spot. They went out and signed David Montgomery, and then the Lions did, and then go ahead and draft him. And again, it's great for fantasy, but as far as NFL goes, not the best choice of.
I mean, I love me some Dan Campbell, but Dan Campbell's out here drafting like it's 1999. They had 2 first-round picks, and he took a running back and an inside linebacker. I mean, but hey, that's what they want to do. That's their brand. Like he's a tough, hard-nosed guy, and he wants to run the ball and stop the run. So, I mean, and then they ended up getting some good value in their later picks. So, I've always been a little partial to the Lions just because they were so bad, and they were great, back when the NFL first started, and they just kind of stunk ever since. But now they got Dan Campbell at the helm, and I think I think it's super cool of them to be doing a little bit better. So they're kind of like my second team behind the Cowboys. But did the smoke screen by Houston, did that throw you off at all? Of them like, oh, we're not picking Stroud, we're taking a defensive guy, and then they pick Stroud, and then they trade up to 3 and get Will Anderson too.
Yeah, I actually love that from them, and I want to come back to that. But on the Lions, did you see that video of the Lions war room after they drafted Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, they all went berserk. I was like, wow, okay. Anyways,
imagine if Bijan had fallen, like they would have.
Oh God,
they would have had a freaking party in there.
No, I mean, I wasn't following the Houston's pre-draft too much, but I think they got a good quarterback in Stroud, and I'm happy that they took him there. I think he's going to do, well. There was all the pre-draft news that he was scoring poor on whatever test, but I don't think anybody knew that test existed until last week. So
I had never even heard of it. Like, yeah. I'm not. If it was around before this year, I don't believe you, because I've never heard it mentioned ever until the last couple weeks.
Somebody had to leak that to try and get the Texans to not take him or something. That's the only thing that could have been going on there. That's my conspiracy theory. But
apparently, if they had not taken him, the Titans were going to trade up to 3 and pick him. So
maybe that's who leaked it, the Titans. Who knows? Division rivals at that.
Yeah, there you go.
But no, I like what they did. I mean, the 2-3 pick, Will Anderson's a great player too. So I really like what they did. I was a little shocked because I was actually at the bar and saw that, and I was like, whoa, okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't paying attention at all, but looked up and saw that they traded up and got Will Anderson. I was like, all right, good for them.
Yeah. So I'm definitely, I can't call myself a Texans fan. Like, I'm, Cowboys through and through, but I don't take like joy in their misery. Like, I feel like they've been down for a little bit now. We actually went to a game last year against the Chiefs, and there was like maybe 17 Texan fans there, and the rest were Chiefs. And it's just tough. And I think they did like the things they did in the draft are what you want to see as a fan base. Like, you don't want like, people talk about the quarterbacks coming out next year, and that's all well and good, but you can't put your franchise through another season of just, hey, we're going to tank again and get the first pick because this is the guy that we really believe in. Like, do something that's going to like show your fans that you're actually trying to win. And I think Houston should be happy with that. But
what do you think about them taking Anderson and not waiting to get JSN later on and then pair Stroud and JSN together?
If this was a different receiver class, I would agree. But and I love JSN, but I don't think he is a Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Justin Jefferson type. I think he's going to be very good. But now, if this was next year, they may have traded up to get the other Ohio State receiver and pair him with CJ, because people are already mocking him to go number 2 overall next year. And,
I'm not saying JSN with the 2. Just didn't they have like some pick in the teams?
They had 12. Yeah, you're right. They had 12. I think that would have been fine, but I think they desperately needed some kind of pass rusher, and they went and got the best one. And like 2 years ago, Anderson was just flat out dominant in college football. He had like 37 tackles for loss and just tore it up. So they gave up a lot, but coming away from your draft with Stroud and Will Anderson, and they picked a nice receiver from U of H in like the second round, I think, or third round maybe, Tank Dell. So there's some receiver help there. Oh, and they signed Dalton Schultz from the Cowboys in the offseason. So they got a little something going. They got their left tackle back, Laramie Tunsil. So I don't know. I mean, if I'm a Texans fan, I'm satisfied with what they did, and just keep on firing bullets. I mean, they'll have the Browns pick next year. They're rooting for the Browns to, go 0-17. But
I think we all are, though.
Real quick, as a Cowboys fan, I'll use my platform here to talk about the Cowboys for a minute. But I have lambasted the Cowboys for the last decade for completely neglecting the nose tackle position, or the one tech, if you will. That big, beefy guy in the middle that mucks it up and can, shut down the run game for opponents, do some damage in the backfield. They have just not drafted that guy for forever, and they've had chances to. So when this draft came around, the guy they ended up picking, Mozzie Smith from Michigan, I'm like, oh, he'd be perfect. They're not going to pick him. They hate players like him. They don't want to draft him. So when they got on the clock, and there's actually some other really good players on the board, and they drafted Mozzie Smith, I was ecstatic. So that's what I think when you play teams like the Eagles and the 49ers that have really dominant offensive lines. They got pushed around a little bit, and bringing in a guy like Mozzie, that's going to help stiffen up the run defense and free up those edge rushers. I mean, you got Micah freaking Parsons, and if three guys are blocking Micah on every play, you need the other guys to show up and do something. So that was my favorite pick they made. I like the tight end pick in the second round, Schoonmaker. But also, this is a college football show. They picked Deuce Vaughn in the 6th round, formerly of my college fantasy team, total stud running back from Kansas State. All 5'6" of him. Love me some Deuce Vaughn. Sad that he can't wear 22 in Dallas because of Emmitt Smith. But his I don't know if you guys saw the video going around. His dad is like VP of scouting for Dallas, and he got to like call him when they picked him and say, hey, like, do you want to come to work with me next week? Because we're picking you. It was, if you haven't seen it, go look it up. It's a super, super cool, super emotional video. But love that for my team. He's a great player. And I mean, I can't doubt what the Cowboys do in the draft anymore. Like, they make me look like a fool every year. So like, they'll pick some guy and I'll be like, oh, that's a stupid pick. And the guy is a Pro Bowler that his rookie season. So I'll just withhold judgment until we see this fall. But I'm feeling good, which I shouldn't, because when I feel good about a team, they tank and everything blows up in my face. So the way it'll go, Dallas will miss the playoffs and A&M will make the playoffs if we could be so lucky.
Well, we don't have to get as lucky when we expand to 12 teams.
That's right. Thank you for that segue, Hayden.
You got it.
So as we've discussed on here, 2024 is going to be a just complete wild year in college football, with the moves of Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC, USC, UCLA to the Big Ten. Sorry, I almost said Big 12. And then the expansion of the playoff to 12 teams. Well, they came out, them being the committee, they came out and announced what dates these games are going to be on, because we really don't know, or we didn't know before. But the first round of the playoff games, so you got, Thanksgiving is that last week of the season, and then following that, the conference championship games. And then for 2024, those first round games are going to be played at the home stadiums of the higher seeds. And one game will be December 20th, which is a Friday, and then 3 games on Saturday on the 21st. love the home sites. I'm glad they kept that in. I cannot wait for A&M to host one of those, which is not totally unrealistic. I feel like we should expect to do that, in the near future. But um, I like that it's not. Well, it's. I like that it's somewhat easy to schedule your travel around. It's going to be tough with the holidays. Like if you're, say, if A&M was playing a road game the first round at, you know, Penn State, uh, it may be tough for us to get up there. Like it may be tough. Hey, we're going to fly out the Thursday before Christmas and go and go to Happy Valley, Pennsylvania, and watch our college team, and then try to get back in time for to be with our families. Also, as your team moves on, like you can't really go to every one. I mean, if you're work at Edward Jones, maybe you can, but us commoners, I mean, but for real, I mean, like you've got like say you're in the SEC championship game, and then you're in the first of potentially 4 playoff games. Like you got to pick your spots. I mean, if it's at home, that's fantastic. But if you got to go to the Peach Bowl or somewhere like that, it make it a little bit pricey. And Sutton has a great point. Imagine the ticket prices for those first on-campus playoff games. The city of College Station should be very happy if we ever host one of those because they're going to make a killing.
Yeah, I agree with the problems with travel on that, but that comes with the territory on anything. Any bowl games. I mean, bowl games are still around that time anyways. People still travel to bowl games. So I think it would depend on, like, if we went to the first round and we were going to play somewhere that I have no interest in going, then it wouldn't be worth it. We went to Penn State. Well, okay, yeah, I'm going to make it a point to go travel there. But if we go to a place that I'm just have no interest in seeing, then we'll skip all of that holiday travel.
Well, especially if it's like a fellow SEC team that we've like already been to a bunch. Like,
right.
If you have to play at like Florida or somewhere like that, you'll be like, well, I've been there, so
that would be almost one of my only arguments for not making a case to go. It's like, oh well, I've already been to that stadium. I've already been there. I know what that's like.
Yeah.
Almost any of the other schools that would have a college program that would be making the playoffs are going to have a campus that I'm probably going to want to visit.
I agree. But if we were playing Colorado, it's like, okay, well, I've been there.
Well,
hey,
in 2-3 years, that could be a possibility.
But I mean, there's very few, like I said, the very few schools.
I agree with you there.
I think what I like about actually having the expansion now is, like, with those added 8 teams, you get all these additional teams that you don't normally get to see in the playoffs.
Right.
And you get these matchups that you don't normally see unless it's I mean, I guess you get the bowl games, but whatever, it's a bowl game and the players are sitting out, so doesn't mean anything. Now it means something.
Yeah.
It's going to draw a lot more eyes to it, I think.
I would hope that there would be more matchups of teams that don't normally play each other. I could see, like, oh, Texas A&M is playing TCU, and oh, great, wonderful.
Yeah.
But so, like, let's say that both of us made it. I'd love to see a matchup of A&M versus Penn State and TCU versus USC, or something.
Yeah.
To that degree.
Well, like, especially, like, the more I think about this, it is likely to be, like, if we're going on the road, like, to a higher seed, that's like you said, it's probably a pretty good program. That's and likely one that we haven't seen. So for example, like, here's who hosted last year. Well, and some of these are SEC, but if we had a 12 team last year, these would have had home games. It's Alabama, Ohio State, Tennessee, and TCU. Obviously, Bama and Tennessee. I haven't been to both of those, but I'll be at Tennessee this year. I'll be at Bama, sometime in the near future. But
save yourself a trip.
If well, hopefully it goes better than that trip went. But if we're in a playoff game, at Ohio State, like, oh my God, like I've never been to a game there. It's on my bucket list, and A&M is not very likely to schedule them in the non-con, so it's kind of it's a rare opportunity to go to that campus and see your team play up there. But you have to make it work with the travel plans and logistics and things like that.
No doubt.
It would have been cool to see, I guess it would be cool to see like teams in the same state, like play each other. Like if we played at TCU or
Like the
got,
regionals on baseball.
yeah, kind of like that.
Mhm.
And not saying that they have to seed it that way, but like because you don't want rematches, and looking at last year's uh, potential bracket, there was one rematch. It's Penn State at Ohio State. The other ones are super exciting: USC at Alabama, K-State at Tennessee, and then Tulane at TCU. Not to dog on TCU, but Tulane could have taken them in that matchup. I mean that would have been a very exciting football game. And and then the winner goes to play Utah. You could have Tulane in the Final Four. So that I feel like that weekend, and I want to hear what you guys think. Like that first weekend of those first round playoff games, is that going to be looked forward to with the same excitement or similar excitement as the first March Madness weekend? Where like, hey, like these aren't the best of the best teams, but these are very closely matched teams, and you could see some upsets. You could see a 12-5 or a 11-12 or whatever it is, 11-6.
Almost definitely.
Yeah, I'd say the same.
You're in a month-long drought of football after Thanksgiving ends. There's meaningless bowl games going on that whole time that maybe you watch, but again, they don't mean anything. So then you get 4 games in one weekend of, oh my God, these teams that usually probably aren't ever going to play each other are now going to play each other, and there's going to be an upset. Some of those 4, it's almost guaranteed, in my opinion, that at least one of them will have an upset. Most likely 2.
Yeah. And
I would go so far as to say I think it would be more exciting than the first week of the March Madness, simply because, well, like look at the list of teams that would have played there. Right? With college football, there's always that 5 through 8 at least that people are trying to make a contention for, that they deserve to be in there. So I don't think there's gonna be games where people are like, oh yeah, I don't know, this is kind of boring, because it's gonna be composed of nothing but teams that should have been in contention for playoff all these years when they were top 12.
yeah,
Does that make sense?
yeah, for sure. I mean, and just as an example, I mean, last year you would have had USC at Alabama. I mean, that's like a ratings bonanza right there.
Oh, definitely.
like it'd probably be in the primetime slot, in one of the night slots. So like everyone's tuning into that. Like everybody wants to see, a team from out west like USC play this, team that's been a dynasty in Alabama, and it's there. Like Alabama has a home game, and their fans get to get jazzed up for that. The USC fans get to visit there, and it's going to make for some incredible atmospheres. And I want to apologize in advance to my family members, because when these games are going on, yeah, I'm watching every second of these games, because I said it earlier, but just to reiterate, on Friday there's one game. On Saturday there's three playoff games on Saturday. It's going to be an all day affair. Like even when we've had the playoff semifinals in the past, that's just 2 games. You got your 3:30 and the night game. But this, like, you're going to have, I'm assuming you're going to have the whole college game day set up. They're going to go to one of the locations, and it's just going to be like a normal weekend, or like just a souped up weekend of the regular season, where you're like, hey, like it's the freaking playoffs. You know, we've got college football right before Christmas, and we don't have to wait to a month to watch our team play again.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to be all of us. I think you're going to get more viewership on these games than you would in bowl games, especially the early bowl games. Because there's a lot of those bowl games that I don't even end up watching,
Oh yeah,
because there's so many of them, and it goes for so long that I just kind of lose track on what game is when, and I'll miss some of them.
Kind of
Well, in
like
the first,
MLB.
well, yeah, well, and the first one will be on like a Wednesday at 2:00, and I'm like, I had no idea this game was even happening today. Like it
Yeah.
wasn't advertised, you know.
Oh, there's been times where I've been like sitting at my desk and I'm like, oh wait, there's a game on, and I'll go to watch it, and I'm start watching it in the middle of the day. So I think there will be a lot more eyes turned to these games. I would like to see. I don't know if it's possible logistically speaking, but I feel like it would be. I would like to see them implement some sort of rule that on the first round you can't play somebody that was from your conference. So like if you look up at the mock up here, it would have been Ohio State versus Penn State that first round, just because it was 6-11. But I would much rather it say, oh, but you can't play your own conference, so it's going to be Ohio State Tennessee or Ohio State Kansas State versus Tennessee and Penn State. Does that make
Yeah.
sense? Like
Yeah.
split it to where you don't you try to avoid at all cost a rematch.
Yeah. I think, especially in the first round, I think they will at least try to go out of their way to avoid that. And
I think they'll probably rank them on the back end.
right.
Like, oh well, Ohio State's 6, but let's just put them 7. You
Yeah.
know, that way it
Like-
didn't happen.
Yeah, like the committee put this out, and it's got Penn State at Ohio State, but they could have fudged the numbers a bit and sent Penn State to somewhere else, like sent them to Alabama or somewhere like that, which that sucks for them, but you have to play a tougher team. But I think it makes for better television.
Well, unless they want to intentionally show a rematch, a Tennessee Alabama rematch this year would have been huge.
Yeah, it would have, and even this past year in the playoff that we had, people were like, we might get Ohio State Michigan in the title game, and it's going to break every TV record that we've ever had. So there's potential for, like, if it's like a rivalry like that, obviously, like if you get Alabama Auburn in the playoff, like that's going to be exciting. But Penn State Ohio State, they're same division and whatnot, but it's not bitter enough to be that exciting. It's more like, oh, like these teams already played each other, like that's not that exciting.
Yeah, I agree. But see, that's where, let's say Texas was in the top, like we were going to play Texas first round. Would you rather play Texas first round, or would you rather them be on the opposite side of the bracket and us play all the way through and then play each other?
Right. And, in that same kind of vein, like what if you just played them on Thanksgiving and then you play them again, like, 4 weeks later? Yeah. It's going to be real good for those houses divided.
There's going to be murders in Texas over that.
The Red River, or not the Red River, the Lone Star Deja Vu.
Yeah.
Like, weren't we just together? Didn't we just see y'all a month ago, and we were eating turkey as well? And weren't we watching this game together?
We're going to put the word shootout back in the rivalry name.
Shootout round 2.
But no, just talking about this is getting me fired up. Like, obviously, I'm excited for the upcoming season, but I kind of understand why people dog on this, but I think once you expand it to 4, it couldn't have stopped there. Like it didn't make any sense to. I think either you have 2 or you have many like this, and maybe it's not perfect, but at least it gives you some of the games on campus. It gives you, I think, fair matchups. It gives you incentives, like we've talked about. You win your conference, you might get a bye week. If you don't win your conference, but you win enough games, you could host a playoff game and boost your ticket sales and your community and stuff like that, and just have the benefit of playing a home game. So I don't know. The whole thing is just super exciting to me, and I'm excited to watch it play out.
Yeah, I am
So,
too.
so what? I don't really think I've understood this yet. Why have they announced it for 24 and 25 only? Are they doing like a two-year trial and then going to tweak it after that, or what's the deal?
That's a great point. And I meant to write that down and I didn't. So thank you for bringing that up. But so the current deal runs through 2025. Like back when they were trying to hash all this out last summer, and it got voted down. It had to be unanimous because it was like a new deal. Well, like the commissioners voted against it, and they came back and they all voted for it. And I think the television wise, ESPN has control of it through 2025. After that, it goes back up for bid, and ESPN can bid on it, Fox can bid on it, whoever else wants to get on the action. Amazon, Apple TV can bid on it if they want to, and just pay a few $1 billion if they're so inclined. But I think these next 2 years, or like 24 and 25, is all they really have a good grasp of what it'll look like, and they can work with ESPN to kind of plan that out and figure out where to put these games. The other part is the quarterfinals. Those are going to be the quarterfinals and the semifinals are going to rotate between those New Year's Six games. So Fiesta, Peach Bowl, Rose, Sugar, Orange, and Cotton. And the quarterfinals are at the time slots where the semis used to be. So the first one will be on New Year's Eve, and the next three on New Year's Day. Rose Bowl, obviously, their big thing is playing on New Year's Day at 5:00, and they don't want to, stop doing that. That's kind of their thing. And in the semis, I think we talked about this before the show, but the semifinals are Thursday and Friday, and that leads into the wild card playoff for the NFL. So you'll have a playoff game of some sort Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and once again, that's just going to be an entire event of just something to look forward to and get excited about.
No doubt about it. I wish it was this season because
Yeah,
I'm just ready to see it. Plus, inevitably, we'll end up at number 12 this season, and
No, we'll end up at
Jimbo
number
will go
5
on a
this season.
tirade.
and Texas will be 5.
Yeah.
I think maybe an underrated point of this, at least maybe by some folks, is this is gonna, like, people think that an expanded playoff is gonna hurt the regular season and devalue it, and I think there's some merit to that. Like, I think we all love college football because every game matters. If you drop a game, you might be out of it. Like if you're gearing up for a big year and your quarterback gets hurt, Trevor Lawrence, or has COVID, whatever it was, and has to miss a game and you lose, like, hey, like that puts things in doubt, and that could derail, your entire season. And like, it's really freaking hard to win a championship in college football. You need everything to go right. And I think with it being at 12, even the teams that have little to no shot of winning the whole thing, they still get to enjoy, like, hey, like we're in the hunt, like we have a chance to get into the playoffs, and then, anything can happen, which is true. Anything could happen. And it's just opening the doors to more teams. And, maybe you've got, a 7-3 Minnesota team that's, trying to get to 10 wins and get in the playoffs for the first time. That's going to energize those fan bases. That's something to look forward to.
Well, that's where I would disagree wholeheartedly from somebody that says that it'll devalue the the main season, because what devalues the season more? When losing your first 2 games, and then now you know you
Exactly.
have no shot, and so you don't care anything about the season. You don't watch any football like you normally do, or sticking through that, and you went 10-2, but you lost your first 2 games.
Yeah.
You know,
But your team got hot at the end. Yeah.
right, right.
That's exactly right. And
So I think it values the season more because it values the season, not the first couple games.
yeah.
And so um, I think it's a better opportunity to improve the seasons. And the other part of that is everybody saying that this is the only sport that we don't have that. Like
Yeah.
the only
Exactly.
level of any sport, like why aren't we saying that about the NFL? Why aren't we saying like, oh, we need to get rid of the playoff because it devalues the season? You know, why are you saying this isn't going to make it a preseason? You know,
Yeah.
it's not going to. That's the way people think is that it's going to be like a preseason game in NFL, and it's not. It's still a regular season. So, I don't know. I don't agree with that mentality. I think it will value the season more because you'll have more opportunity, and you can lose one game and still go and become the best team. You know.
Yeah.
Um,
I think that argument mainly comes from like some of the old heads in college football, like people that and this is the way they grew up watching football. That's totally fine, but it was all about the big bowl games, like a a successful year for a team like Wisconsin or someone like that was winning the Big Ten, winning the Rose Bowl, and that's a great year. Like it doesn't matter if you win the whole thing; it's all about winning that big time bowl game. That's all well and good, but this is a freaking competitive sport. Like I want our team to be number one. I want them to be the very best. And I want them to prove that against the rest of the country, like all the other teams. So
yeah. So to your point there, that was when they didn't have a championship game. It was
yeah,
just you
exactly.
went to a bowl game, and like good for you. You went 8-4, and
Yeah,
you got to go to this bowl game, and you thumbed a ride over there, and whatever. I mean, great, but you still weren't near as good as this other team over here. Yeah, but we were the best in our region.
yeah.
Great, it's wonderful for you.
Well, you should have played this other team that we all voted number one.
Yeah, exactly.
And now we have 3 teams sharing the title, and they all put it on their stadiums. And
It's the same way with everything, where people look on the past lovingly and the future begrudgingly, like, oh, it's going to be so bad. No, it's going to be
this
be
is
great.
going to ruin the sport. The sport's ruined.
Yeah, think about how many people are like now suddenly being like, no, why are we expanding to 12? 4 is perfect. You know, remember like 10 years ago when the idea of 4 was going to
4 was the
ruin college
devil.
football?
Yeah.
Can you imagine going back to 2? It just doesn't even seem feasible anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
And like
there's going to come a day where 12 is the same way.
yeah.
So
I don't know if I can see that.
what, where 12 is like the standard and you can't imagine going back to 4 teams?
No. I could see us even retracting back to 8, honestly, because whenever that 8 format came out that everybody was talking about last summer, I thought that was a decent format. 12, I think, is great. I don't have a problem with that, but I'm like, where do you stop?
Yeah.
How big can it get before it gets too big?
I think 12 is good because you could essentially get 2 teams from every Power 5 conference, and then 2 Group of 5 teams.
Well, one of them's got to be Notre Dame. They're free ride, so
Yeah.
11
Yeah.
teams.
But they can never get a bye week because they're not in a conference.
That's true.
So like the highest they could ever be is 5 and host a game, which is I'm sure they're fine with that. Like I think they understand that, but
Well,
I think maybe the biggest benefit of this is just knowing how the teams are picked. Like they make it very clear, hey, the top 6 ranked conference champions, like of the conference championship games, are getting selected for this. The other 6 are going to be at large, and we're going to pick them, how we see fit, which is going to be, I'm sure someone somewhere will be upset about some team being 12 or being 13 instead of 12, and the like people need something to yell about. But I feel like at large, people aren't going to be that upset if Tulane gets in at 12 over a 3-loss Auburn team, or something like that.
Yeah.
The arguments are a lot different though between arguing at 4 and 5 and 12 and 13 though.
Exactly.
Yeah. At 4 and 5, you're splitting hairs between, we were just talking about, you have to have basically this perfect season just to even make it to the playoff. Now at 12, 13, you're looking at a 2-3 loss season, maybe even. It's like, okay, well, who were their losses and how did you can actually start picking a team apart,
Right.
and find their weaknesses, as opposed to, well, this guy was a little sick on that day. And yeah.
Well, they lost a game. They played a full SEC schedule, but they lost to Alabama.
Yeah.
And they got beat by a lot. So,
So, yeah. So they're ineligible for the playoff this year.
Yeah. So, but if it's like, well, they lost to Alabama and they lost to Auburn and they lost to Lamar University. Okay. Yeah. They're out of here,
Just for some context here, number 13 last year would have been Florida State. Behind, actually, sorry, it would have been Washington. So that's a little bit trickier because Tulane was actually 16th, but since they were a conference champion, they would have bumped out Washington. And Washington had a fine year, but I mean, don't lose to UCLA, and don't lose to. Hang on, I know this is horrible podcasting, but they lost to somebody bad last year. They shouldn't have lost to.
Yeah, I don't remember.
They lost to Arizona State. Yeah. If you want to be in the playoff, don't lose to Arizona State. So
you heard it here first.
You heard it here first. But I think like the perfect example of a team that lost their first game, stumbled one other time against a good opponent, and was on fire down the stretch was 2012 A&M with Johnny. I mean, that, like, we've gone back and talked about what the playoff would have looked like. I think in this kind of format, A&M would have actually had a rematch with LSU in Death Valley in the first week. I mean, that's going to get people fired up. And, I know that's been, 11 years ago now, but it's college football. Like, you're going to have a team like that, a team that gets, Heisman level quarterback play out of nowhere. Like, think of Louisville with Lamar, like with Lamar Jackson back in the day. Like, teams like that are going to be in the playoff now instead of just Ohio State, Georgia, and Alabama, and whoever else is recruiting the best. So, all in all, I mean, I think it's an excellent upgrade, and it's going to make the sport that much more fun, and it's going to lead to A&M getting into the playoff more often than they have so far, which is 0 times.
I hope so. We'll see. Jury's still out on that.
The jury is out. There's no doubt. Sorry, I didn't mean to rhyme that.
I thought it, didn't say it, but I was just going to let it go.
Anything else? I guess lastly, the championship game would be a week later than it typically is. It's usually on like the 11th, 12th of January, which is a Monday night. In these scenarios, it's January 20th, which is close to my birthday, and January 19th. So still on a Monday night for these 2 years. But yeah, I mean, it's like Chase said, I wish it was this year, because I think they, for once, the people in charge of things did something right which hardly ever happens. Like it would have been perfectly easy for, commissioners and whoever else to just completely crap on this and just not push it through for the sake of being contrarians. But they got it done, and it'll be here in a year's time. I'm stoked about it.
I'm looking forward to it. Once they announced it, I'm like y'all said, I wish it was this year. I wish it was happening right now, even though we're not even in football season. I want to see. I can't wait for that first week of wild card games or semifinals, whatever they're first round. They're going to need to come up with some sort of name for that.
Yeah, they will. They'll need to. But I think this was probably the best thing they could have done as far as the dates go, and trying to not clash with the NFL as much as possible. So, yeah, I feel like I'm just repeating myself, but I'm looking forward to it very much. Anything else from you guys before we get out of here?
I don't think so.
I saw it earlier today. I think it's 122 days until New Mexico State. 20 days until September 2nd. 122 and counting. So we'll be here with you. Not every week, but many of these weeks between now and then. Believe we had a company meeting earlier today to switch to Tuesday nights going forward. TBD on our next one. We need to get with that and discuss that. But some things that we're working on, we're very excited about. And as we get into the summer, that excitement just continues to build for the current season. So the portal is closed, but there's plenty of players out there. A&M's got spots. They're going to try to attack that. And fall camp will be here before we know it. But for Hayden Garland, that's at POTUS, Chase Caldwell, and myself, Will Stone. This is the Ineligibles podcast. Thanks for listening. We will see you next time.
May the fourth be with you.
God.